Hey everyone, welcome to Reality TV News Update, the place where we bring you the latest updates, fun moments, and behind-the-scenes stories you won't want to miss. Former Seeking Sister wife star Roberta Rodriguez is breaking her silence regarding her ex-fiancé, Garrick Merrifield's alleged domestic violence arrest. She was with Garrick and Danielle Merrifield for some time until she ended the relationship. 3. The Buena Vista, Colorado couple had a lady. They were courting Roberta Rodriguez from Brazil, whom they had met online. The goal was for the Merrifields to divorce so that Garrick and Roberta could get married. That happened, and things seemed to go very well, aside from Danielle's incredible jealousy issues. As time went by, Roberta's visa was processed, and she started planning a family with Garrick. At the last second, she opted not to come to America, leaving the Merrifields heartbroken. They had given her money, but that may have been her fee for appearing on the show. The Merrifields did move on and had another failed engagement before they married Lorana. She welcomed a daughter, Sarah, shortly before Garrick was arrested for alleged domestic violence. Now, Roberta is speaking out about what happened to Lorana. She took to social media to write this: "Pretty fed up watching who tried to knock me down. The justice of God never fails." She concluded it with the praying hands emoji, and it left many followers baffled. In many ways, they did not feel that the Seeking Sister wife alum was innocent. Moreover, they felt she was no victim and had played along with Danielle and Garrick Merrifield in their sick game. Roberta Rodriguez had been in the same situation as Lorana, yet she escaped. Many have wondered why Danielle has stuck around for so long when this life brings her to tears. However, she seems to have grown accustomed to Garrick and his treatment of her. At the end of the day, viewers want to know more about what happened behind the scenes with Roberta. Spill the tea. Garrick Merrifield has been arrested and subsequently released. Moreover, he will appear in court again in the middle of December 2025. Allegedly, the Seeking Sister wife star had to leave his Colorado home so his wives could stay. Now that this has gone down, fans want Roberta Rodriguez to tell all about being with him and Danielle. They think she has seen as much as Lorana, if not more, and the time has come. She needs to give up more. Roberta, this is a safe space, hon. Tell us everything. I wish you would do a tell-all video interview. Roberta, you need to tell us the dirt, or was the 10 grand hush money? Of course, some did not want to hear from Roberta, who had not said a word until now. Maybe she will come forward, and maybe she will bring their second fiancé, Nathalia Lima, with her. Do you think Roberta is trying to milk this Seeking Sister wife situation, or does she really care? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The flashes of camera bulbs were relentless, a strobe of judgment and curiosity as Roberta Alston stepped out of the police station in the pre-dawn half-light, pale and trembling. She avoided all eye contact, her arms wrapped tightly around a small, leather-bound book. Reporters shouted questions. The crowd searched forward, hungry for a quote. But she said nothing. Instead, she clutched that book, her only companion in this moment of horror. Inside, the book was her refuge, blank pages, save for her flowing, careful script. Each word a lock she refused to release. Each page a standalone statement. I will not justify. I will not perform. Not today. Outside, the world would call it silence. But inside, Roberta's heart hammered. She wondered, what happens to a home when the foundation cracks? A few hours later, back in the confines of her living room, the same room she and Garrick Alston had painted together, arranged the furniture side by side, built the life they'd promised, Roberta flipped open the book and began to write. November 3rd, 2:13 a.m. Darkness hurts. Not the black of night, but the kind that sits heavy on your bones. Garrick is gone. They took him away in blue lights and cold metal cuffs. The walls echo with silence now. I hear our children breathing in the next rooms. I want to ask them what they see when they close their eyes. I want to tell them it'll be okay. But I don't speak. Not a sound. I write instead. Because words can't hurt anymore. She paused, biting her lip, as if the act itself hurt. Her throat closed and she let the pen hover over the paper. Then she wrote again. Is this what love looks like? The question seemed too large to carry. By the second week, tabloids had turned their gaze onto their family. Fans of their show Seeking Sister Wife took sides, some condemning, some defending, some simply waiting for the next twist. Roberta stayed inside, her days blurred, sunlight through dust-laden windows, nights filled with the scratch of pen against paper. Each entry grew shorter, more hurried. The pages folded into a journal of ache and unresolved questions. No public statement, no tears for the cameras, only the book. And then came the knock at the door, a paramedic in a heavy coat. Roberta didn't remember answering. She didn't remember the collapse. The only thing she knew, the last thing she held, was the leather book, slick with her sweat and grief. In the hospital, her children hovered under harsh fluorescent lights, teenagers with wide eyes, shadows under their chins, hands intertwined. The rest of the world continued to spin, but inside these sterile corridors, time stood still. Everyone else exchanged whispers, comatose, stress-induced collapse, family in shock. Reporters camped outside, cameras angled at windows, the birth of a new tabloid narrative. Still, not a statement, not a press release, just a closed hospital room door. Meanwhile, inside the journal, a final entry, half-written, unfinished. November 17th, 11:57 p.m. I can't sleep. The ceiling fan moves like a sigh. My chest feels heavy, as though I'm carrying every look I ever avoided, every accusation, every doubt. They call us stars, but no one sees the shadows behind the smiles. I don't know how to turn this pain into words that make sense out there where the lights burn and the lenses focus. Maybe I don't have to. Maybe silence will say enough. Then, a blank space. 3 days after the book went missing. At first, everyone suspected paparazzi, another exploitative scoop, another headline. Then, oddly, the leaks stopped. Whatever copycat report surfaced on some gossip blog was quieted. Phone calls dry, cameras angled elsewhere. The world seemed to move on. Inside the Alston home, the air was thick. Their furniture still sat arranged, the children still moved through the halls, but there was a hollowness, a space left behind that nothing could fill. And yet in that emptiness, something fragile rose, without words. Months passed in a blur. The world outside turned its attention elsewhere. New scandals on reality TV, new arrests, new faces. The children resurfaced at school, quiet, reserved, carrying their mother's silence like a shield. Attempted to smile, tried to fit in. Inside the house, the walls stayed bare of press photographs. No reporters knocked. No more episodes taped. The home had returned, but it was a different home now. But then one golden autumn afternoon, as the sun slanted low across the kitchen floor, the youngest daughter, who had refused to open the book since that day in the living room, heard a soft breath. She turned, and she saw a flutter, a pale hand, trembling at the edge of the bed. In that moment, there were no cameras, no microphones, no headlines. She walked forward slowly, measured, careful. She reached out, hesitated, then took her mother's hand. Roberta's eyes flickered open. For a long moment, nothing was said, and yet so much passed between them. Her daughter pressed the leather book into Roberta's palm. Roberta looked down at it, the book, worn, faded, then back at her daughter. The corners of her lips moved, but no sound came. And that was the silence she chose. Not the kind reporters expected, not the kind that flickered under studio lights, a silence rooted in absence and pain, but also in healing, carried quietly in small gestures. In the days that followed, they kept the book. It remained closed, but it wasn't locked. They placed it on the shelf, a talisman, a reminder that what's broken can sometimes be held together again, not with words, but with time, with presence, with love carried quietly in small gestures. The cameras never returned. The interviews never happened. The world moved on. But in that house, in that family, a new story began, one written in glances, in shared meals, in soft footsteps in the late-night hallways, and in the gentle rhythm of breathing.
The glare of television lights was almost unbearable as Roberta Alston stepped into the ribbon of yellow police tape, framed on either side by cameramen and reporters shouting for a statement. In her hands, a single sheet of paper trembled, typed, crisp, newly printed. She cleared her throat, glanced once at the cameras, and in a voice hushed but firm, she read, "I will not comment beyond this. I stand for truth. My family deserves privacy during this time of pain and healing." Then she folded the paper and closed her eyes. That one measured breath, one the world would call silence, was for strength. Behind her, the echo of sirens faded. Ahead, the glare of flashbulbs lingered. She moved past them, stepping into her car, shoulders rigid, face drained of color. Inside the car, she buried her face into her hands. She had broken silence, the silence the world insisted she keep, but in doing so, she realized she had spoken more with that quiet statement than she ever could with words. Just hours earlier, charged with domestic violence, Garrick Alston had been handcuffed and hauled off in front of their children and neighbors. The red and blue lights had painted the family home in harsh strobe. Their elder daughter, 15, tall and delicate, had screamed. Their youngest, 8, had burst into sobs. The police left behind an air of stunned disbelief. That same night, reporters camped on their front lawn, demanding answers. Where is Roberta? What does she think now after Garrick's arrest? Her silence had been total, not because she had nothing to say, she had entire volumes of words inside, but because the weight of speaking felt heavier than the weight of silence. Now, after days of speculation, she had issued that single statement. And as her car rolled through quiet streets toward the hospital, she thought of the real reason she'd finally spoken. In the stark, antiseptic hallway of the ICU, machines beeped softly. The fluorescent lights hummed. Her younger daughter, Mia Alston, lay motionless above the bed, an unseen injury to the head rendering her comatose. The doctors had only given a guarded prognosis. Maybe she'd wake in days, maybe not. She stood at the foot of the bed, gripping the press statement in one hand, the other resting on the metal rail. The sheet over Mia's chest rose and fell with mechanical precision, a steady rhythm not of life, but of support. In that gray stillness, Roberta felt more exposed than she did before 1,000 cameras. "How did we get here?" she whispered, her voice swallowed by the sterile air. Her mind dumped her memory into the worst, loudest replay imaginable. The early days, Garrick's eyes soft when he asked for her hand, the promise of a blended family under the banner of their reality show Life Together, their stepdaughter arrival, their children sharing rooms, painted walls, laughter echoing in open living rooms. And then the tightening, the quiet arguments, the raised voice that quickly turned apologetic, the slammed doors, the hushed threats, the bruises she whispered away as accidents or missteps. She had told herself love didn't have to be perfect, only committed, only private. But the memory that stabbed most sharply right now was Mia, rushing past her upstairs after a late night, clutching her forehead, complaining of a bad headache. "Mom, I'm dizzy," she'd said. Garrick had told her to rest. Then, 2 hours later, that single blow, the crash of fists and the hit against the dresser, and everything unraveled. She tried to shake it. She told herself, the voice in the hallway, the red mark under Mia's ear, the whispered apology, maybe it was all an accident. But the doubts had grown heavy, and on the night of the arrest, when police arrived and saw the bruise, the blood on the carpet, the open medicine cabinet, the carefully constructed facade crumbled. A young nurse walked in, clipboard in hand, paused at the corner, then approached. "Ms. Alston," she said gently, "visiting hours will begin in 15 minutes. Roberta nodded. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't slept. She didn't know whether it was day or night. Her only marker was that damn statement in her pocket. She turned to Mia's side and offered a small, uneven smile. "Hey, Pumpkin," she said tentatively, as if afraid her voice might shatter on the sterile tiles. No response, just the steady hiss of the ventilator, the monitor's LEDs blinking. "Remember when we used to bake cookies on Fridays? You'd lick the bowl clean and call me Cookie Queen, and I'd squeeze you so tight you'd giggle and say I'd crush you. Yeah, I'd do that again someday, I promise." She swallowed hard, tears threatening but refusing to fall. "You're stronger than this. You and Sis, we're going to get through this together." She placed her palm over Mia's small one, gloved in latex, and held on. Over the next few days, the media frenzy built up again. Articles speculated. Was Roberta going to divorce Garrick? Would she try to speak out? Some tabloids painted her as the silent victim trapped in a glamorous but poisonous TV marriage. Others tried to spin her public statement as damage control, a feeble attempt to preserve their brand, their show, their income. Social media exploded. Some fans rallied around her with hashtags, #StandWithRoberta. Others condemned her, #HowCouldYouStay. Comment threads churned with suspicion, outrage, sorrow. In their living room, in front of an empty camera set, the once bright furniture now seemed like props in a cruel theater of disillusionment. She read a few comments. The worst were the ones that demanded she do something. Speak up. Show us you care. But speaking up, real speaking up, meant dragging her daughter's coma into the public eye. It meant reliving the nightmare. It meant turning Mia into another headline. For now, she couldn't do that. Late one night, after visitors and cameras had left, she sat in the dim hallway under the little reading light she kept, the only concession to rest she allowed herself. On her lap lay a notebook, thick, black-covered, blank. She opened it, cut the corners of the pages. Her pen hovered. She began, Day 4, 2:47 a.m. The machines hum. The monitors blink. I cannot see her eyes, but I remember her laugh. I remember freckles on her nose after summer sun. I remember the music of her breathing when she fell asleep last Christmas Eve, curled up in my arms, singing softly about snow she had never seen. I don't know when, if, she will wake. I don't know when justice will come. The world demands a story. I refuse to turn mine into display. For now, I write. She paused, squeezed her eyes shut. I don't know how to promise survival, but I will shield her silence until she speaks again. She closed the notebook, placed it beside her on the plastic chair. A wail of a car alarm jolted her from a light doze. She blinked against the harsh overhead light, shivered. A night nurse stepped into the corridor. "Roberta," she said quietly, "the doctor would like to speak with you. Now." Her heart pounded. She stood, followed her down the hallway. In the small conference room, the doctor sat with kind eyes and tight shoulders. He motioned for her to sit. "Mia's vitals have stabilized," he began in that calm, measured voice doctors use when they still don't know what to say. "She's showing slow but steady neurological improvement. Pupils react, reflexes return. It's too soon to say how much she'll awaken or when, but there's a chance." Roberta's breath caught. "A chance," she repeated. That single word felt like a promise. She closed her eyes. The world outside might be screaming, cameras might be pointing, headlines might be forming, but in this small, sterile room, lit by fluorescent mercy, there was a chance. For the rest of the night, she sat by Mia's door. She refused to answer phone calls from producers. She canceled the upcoming filming schedule. She told herself she was not fleeing responsibility, she was reclaiming her humanity. In the dim glow of the monitors, she leaned over her daughter. She whispered the old silly jokes, the ones Mia used to love, about how the cookies rose like mountains, how the kitchen smelled like Christmas even in July. She told her about the world outside, the bills piling up, the pops lingering, the fans calling out her name through the glass. "None of it matters," she said softly. "Just wake up and come home." No tears. Not yet. Just distance. The quiet kind that holds sorrow so close it becomes a second skin. Across town, producers and publicists met in sterile boardrooms, making decisions about spin, damage control. Their executives argued over PR statements. Should they release a "family is healing" press photo? Should they spin it into a story of redemption or mask it as an unfortunate accident? But they couldn't reach Roberta. Her silence, once judged as weakness, now felt like a barrier, a stand. She realized then what had already been changing inside her. Some lines cannot be redrawn once broken. Some trusts cannot be regained with a script.